this computer.
Got it.
And with that, we will start my informal open mic. Disclaimer, this event is not associated or sponsored by Verse Virtual. Mary, if you would like
Yes.
to read first, let's do round robin. And we'll
Okay.
go Mary, Ed, Sterling, Jim, and we'll just keep going till we've each had maybe 3 poems apiece, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay. I've been reading poems from my book that just came out, and I thought I'd read something that's not in the book. This one's called If You Want to Find God. If you want to find God, you must stop looking. He is a master of subtlety, joker enough to come and go, leaving you behind like St. John in the dark night, an infant wailing in his crib. Am I alone? Am I alone? At 16 on the school lawn, I caught the rim of God's corona, fizzing up through every blade of grass as they set up the carnival, whose gypsy owner with his red scarf and gold earring made some small chittering sound that called the squirrels to come running and climb him like a tree and sit on his shoulders. That night we rode the rickety Ferris wheel that suddenly broke away from one side of its hub, threatening to spill us all. While my sister recited her confession, the gypsy's handsome sons climbed the wheel and held it steady, pulling each car down one by one until all were off safe. Strange rescue, one small measure of unexpected grace. True story. Okay,
Great
this one,
story.
it true. I heard my sister's whole confession. Okay, we were at the top of the Ferris wheel too when it broke away from the hub, and it could have been a disaster because it was full of people.
Wow.
Okay, this one's called Talk, 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 and it's a little bit funny. It's a simple conversation until I join it. Then helpless, I watch myself effervescing like an Alka-Seltzer tablet in a glass of plain water. I see it, but I can't stop it. Once tipped over the rim, it has to drop until it hits bottom and foams itself away into nothing but salt and a bitter taste. I try to swallow, hoping no one will remember my foolish tizzy, the crazy words coming too fast, too full of puns and rhymes, rising like bubbles to dissolve against the walls of your silence. Do
Good.
one more?
Let's do a round robin. Let's hear from Ed, Sterling, and me, and then we'll go around again.
Okay. Thank you.
And I have enabled share screen if you want to use that, Ed.
Yeah, I'm looking, there it is. And yeah, this is what I want. This is the boy from Illinois. Can you see it? Is it on?
It's
Yeah.
on. We're
Okay.
good.
Okay. Growing up in Pan Flat, Illinois, I planned to be a mountain climber like steel-willed Sir Edmund Hillary, but turned out a social worker. Though I seemed destined to play second base for the Cubbies, I ended up on the backyard horseshoe circuit. My mama wanted a priest in the family. I drank enough to fill that bill, but Father Morgan said that I would have to believe wholeheartedly in the Bible and be married to my hand for the rest of my days. I toyed with the thought of becoming a Navy SEAL. That fizzled when I got a high number in the draft lottery. So I kept right on stamping tuna cans on the night shift at A&P. I thought Raquel Welch might flip head over heels for this stud if she got half the chance. Anyway, I spent a whole lot of hours snoozing under her poster. I hope these very hands would someday blaze up and down the howling salad body Telecaster as a standing room only stadium, stone cold stone on coke, Jaeger, meth, and LSD roared back and held up lighters at the end. I settled for slapping my thighs as I belt out rolling on the river in a steamy shower. Now I daydream about winning the lottery, but not changing nothing except for maybe I wouldn't worry if I wore out my socks padding out onto the patio to revel in sunset under a billowing blaze of westward sky as crickets and katydids chime into another richly woven chorus of ever-loving chaos.
Oh, that's fun.
It's a fun poem.
That is just fun.
Thank you.
Sterling, why don't you pick one up?
Okay, I picked poems tonight from older poems. I hope I haven't read them here before, but what the heck if I have. The first one's called Ink for Kathy. Kanazaki's Sakichi, a tattooer who enjoyed slinging ink, pounding skin, grinding out samurai tribal tats, found a young geisha's back an ideal flesh canvas, perfect and pure for his magnum opus, a fiery black widow spider and her prey wreathed in flames, a design where he emptied his tortured soul, poured the mysteries of his craft, lost the secret of artistic distance, victimizer becoming victim of his own invention. Hey, ask Lyle Tuttle, talk to Tala, speak with Shadow. Tattoo lovers, hear art calling, respect beauty beckoning, curiosity and intrigue, push tattoo taboos aside. Amorous arms open wide, inviting every bee sting embrace. Look to the ink envisioning ornamentation and change. Koi fish that swim down spinal cords, alluring tramp stamps, rainbows, roses, knots, accepting each irresistible prick as an affectionate electrical stroke. Tat enthusiasts become decorative meat, healing projects, mottled sleeves nettled with kaleidoscope orchids, reptiles, amphibians, mammals, fairies, fauna. Irons kicking it into third, while some remain silent cadavers, faultless, pulsating fabric, blank slates that ignore angry skin. Other Michelangelos chatter like snow monkeys, demanding purple passion, Aztec yellow, victory red, bonsai blue, driving body engravers crazy with pseudo expertise and preference. Jubilant eyes shut, as tight as bolted castle gates, hold on to their quest, grimacing, yet smiling above all else, resolute while the tattooer violently caresses shaved skin gone crimson, piercing unpigmented pores as lightning bolt biceps cease to throb or discriminate between the pain and pleasure pumped into each permanent creation. A fertile holy grail amid lupiderm blessings. Thanks for listening.
It's a different look on tattoos.
Yeah, that was something else.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, I'm going to do something a little more serious, if I can. I keep having trouble with share screen and notepad.
I just use Word documents.
Yeah, I may have to resort to that, which is easy enough to do. Here we go. Copy. Word. Take forever to open. Okay, this one isn't going to be a share screen. It's just going to be a share poem. This is called Tenses, and it is humorous in its own way. Past perfect. Push a button, roll the film. I had washboard abs, hair enough to get Vidal's attention. The Greeks called me Adonis. Present tense. How can so few children seem like so many? Why does my job want to be my life? There's no clean shirt, and today's sandwich looks like yesterday. I'm late, and there's only oatmeal for breakfast. Future conditional. If Social Security doesn't fail, if I still have a head, even with no hair, and no one steals my pension, and the house outlasts us, if the children leave home, if they come back to visit, not to stay, future perfect. If you are with me at the end, I will have succeeded.
Beautiful.
Mary, you want to go again?
Okay. This is one that I think I've read before, but it's one that when Firestone was with us, he particularly liked. Okay, this also is in my book, and it's dedicated to my sister, who always knew me and never let me go. Enthralled. I found myself lost, black, mechanical, an alien left behind. I had razor blades instead of bones beneath my skin. I spoke in colors, words like sequins, breaking light into smaller and smaller fractions. I had to sort you out between the voices of the trees, the grass, shouting and singing, sharp and dangerous as fields of broken glass. I came naked, feathered and spurred, my tongue baroque, unregulated, my arms full of awkward gifts, apologies like small black holes, swallowing worlds, blind spots white as lepers, running fevers and other sudden lightnings, hard to find room for in any reasonable space. But you held fast through fire season, keeping track while I burned and raved, a speed demon racing through 1,000 changing shapes. You held strong, laying claim against enchantment. You never blinked, never saw any face but mine, rock steady, waiting for me, underneath the shadow maze of strange mutations when I found myself lost.
Good.
That's it.
It's very strong.
I don't know, do you know the legend of Tam Lin? It's a fairy tale. Tam Lin was a mortal who was stolen by the fairy queen. And the fairy queen is not a very nice lady. And she was going to keep him. And his mortal lover had one night of the year that she could try to rescue him. And so she went out to try to do this. And the fairies were in their hunt, their wild hunt. And when they came close, she ran up and threw her arms around Tam Lin. And the fairy queen changed him into monsters, one monster after another, one shape after another. And she never let go. She held on through all those monsters. And finally, she got him back, and he was freed from the fairy queen and taken back into mortal life. So
that sounds a lot like marriage.
yeah.
And, you know,
And the loveliness of having a partner who will hold on to your mini monsters until you calm down.
and like what families go through with drug addicts or alcoholics or PTSD from Nam, things like that is what I was thinking of.
Yep, and there is so much power in not letting go.
Yeah, a lot of what my book and the poems in my book are about are my own struggle with bipolar illness. And this sister of mine, she did exactly that. She never gave up on me. She never let me go. She never did not listen to me. And at one point she said that she just felt so bad because she couldn't do anything. And I said, but you did. You did the most important thing. You did everything. You never gave up on me.
Great. Ed, are you ready?
Oh, maybe. We'll see. Well, okay. Share screen. That's going to be the same poem, but just a second, I'll come to another one. So, this last year, I started writing sonnets, American sonnets, not rhyme sonnets. And I wrote a lot of them. And so this is one of those sonnets. It's called Thursday Morning, Redmond Lake. An ancient voice cracks out from over the slender curvature of an egret's poised neck bone. Wings flash open, brilliant, cocaine white. Beads spill off feathers, talons drip back into what timeless silence wells inside all water. Star white wings glide reflected until the giant bird leaves only the long thread of its absence.
Yeah, that appeals to me because I go out on my kayak in the slough near here, and we see egrets and blue herons a lot, and they are just so beautiful.
They really are gorgeous.
One of the
Like-
nice things about living right on the Hood Canal. I mean, I just have to look out my window and I see them, especially at low tides, picking, oh, and my brother's got a pontoon and they like to get up on the pontoon and just ride that. Mary mentioned the Fairy Queen. I have something that I don't think I've ever read here. I mean, I wrote it like in 2007. But I was teaching a children's literature class for prospective librarians and school teachers at the time at San Jose State University. Anyway, somehow I got home and I had been teaching fairy tales. This came to me. So I entitled it Mermaids. I know what you want. I know you want to get rid of your fish's tail and to have two supports instead of it, like human beings. Put out your little tongue that I may cut it off as my payment. The Little Mermaid, the Brothers Grimm. Actually, Hans Christian Andersen wrote the tale that the Brothers Grimm ripped off like so many other people. So much for a lesson today. Iridescent sea foam crests like fireflies flickering on warm summer evenings and orchestrates night sounds, touches inner pulsations. Waiting, watching, pressing hands, we gaze beyond tamarisk waves, lapping sandy beaches, enchantment's doorway where people, places, things remain ever present. Perched upon rugged rocks that break the glass-faced ocean, mermaids take coral combs, groom exquisite hair, amber, charcoal, golden, red, silver, sepia, luxurious locks concealing bare breasts and slim stomachs, emerald fishtails flashing, slapping the volcanic thrones and aquatic mists, consciously flirting with the world above and the deep waters below. Sweet siren voices beckon as separate sea songs merge. Gulls cry. Whales talk back and forth, accentuating silent moments with majestic sonar blasts, while dolphins chatter, waves crash, and inanimate life forms chime in, and foghorns bellow like long, rag-dung Tibetan trumpets, and buoyed bells clang. Little lights glimmer through fog. Reclining on peaking waves, saltwater pillows, lounging atop skeletal ships, mariner graveyards, and relaxing on sultry barnacle bar stools, mermaids serenade sea creatures and sailors, anything adrift. Seaweed laurels crown innocence, cloak mischievous minds in curiosity's veil. They belong to no person, no thing. Uh, Alluring, compelling, disturbing, the inquisitive caretakers swim into mysterious sea caverns, sunken galleon treasures, subconscious depths where humans imagine themselves feral sea children. Watery soulmates never required to choose between fins or legs, graceful tails or knife-piercing footsteps, life and death whirlpools, sea witch propositions, and unquestioned sacrifice. Thanks for listening.
That was good. That was
Yep.
really,
And that makes me wonder if you like reading fantasy.
Sure.
I do. I grew up on fantasy, so I'm absolutely in love with the whole concept, and that just hooray for the mermaids.
Yeah, I agree.
I am going to read two not overly long poems, and then I'm going to give Ed and Sterling a chance for another that will give us each three, and then I think we'll call a halt to it, just because. So this came from my time spent living on the Navajo reservation. We moved there to a trading post after I was in third grade, so between third and fourth grade. I was young. It was in the middle of nothing, sagebrush and sand. So here we went. Under the bridge, there was a wash next to the trading post, fairly close to it, that was important in controlling flash flooding and not letting it come up to us. Under the bridge, Navajo, my parents said, we will live on the reservation. But 8 years old was not enough to measure the importance of the move. I didn't know it should have made my father's life less hell, only that my daydreams and my treasure box went north, out of familiar walls, green grass, and the crabapple tree, to sagebrush, sand, and wind. 9 is not enough to know words like depression and despair, but I lived them there, the trading post and house, surrounded by miles of nothing. The bridge was just a bridge on top, but underneath, the wooden beams, dark with creosote, had offered some unschooled talent a canvas for his fantasies, his brush, a piece of chalk. 10 was not enough to know of coupling and such, and the revelation of differences frightened and intrigued me. The short walk to the bridge became a daily pilgrimage to see if some new knowledge had been inscribed, white lines of passion on greasy brown boards. When the flash floods came, they washed away the Sodom and Gomorrah illustrations, left me with no reason to return, except the packed sandbanks, where I went back to being 11 and carved out a city for my matchbox cars.
uh,
The second one was from high school. Oh, the fun of being a young man. So we had an Australian exchange student in our school. And this was one of the fun memories that I have of her. Aussie dance. How she came so very far to our nothing high school in our worse than nothing New Mexico town is still a mystery. But she was there, short cropped hair, freckles, and a smile that sparkles in my memory. To only say I was not cool would have been kind then. So when the weekend offered opportunity to match desire, I nearly choked that she said yes. And here's how we dance. Here's how we slow dance in the land of wonder, granting me a fantasy and a lasting longing for things Australian.
That's a fun boat.
And she was cute.
Mhm.
Personality, accent, the whole thing. So, Ed, if you'd like to pick up another, and then Sterling.
Okay. See what I got here. I think, yeah, this will do. This is from when I went to Peru twice. I was lucky to get to Peru twice. The first time, this is really from the second time, just before I married my wife. But the first time changed my life immensely. This is about the second time when I, pretty much knew I was going to marry Renee. And it's in Lima. Always change and memory. I decided to balance my future and past, one spread out across a thrashing sea, the other rooted on shore at a table in a long room hung out over a ledge in Lima, where I ordered ceviche, washed that down with pisco sour, amid whisks, hums, buzz, and the clatter of plates thrown down beyond a door that swung open and closed as fire took over the Pacific. I wanted that stratospheric blaze embedded in me forever so I could savor it with whiskey on my back porch later, when I would be who I was becoming and maybe had half a mind that I might set it down for anyone interested in how waves fold into themselves, rear, explode into sand like bombed out cathedrals, steeples, alcoves, stained glass beams tumbled at all angles. Seabirds, whose only desire was that what has always been would continue to be, and isn't that in doubt? Wheeled above in grand arcs set against frail constellations, and the gatherings black between stars. Sometimes, as the birds pivoted, tilted their wings caught light, flared like distant match heads.
Cool.
Thank you.
Sterling, start
Okay.
us out.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When my brother was alive, we used to like to shore fish, and one time the soft sand became very hard and stickly. I reached down and found a horseshoe crab, which is the genesis of the following poem that I'm finding my share screen. Okay, got it. Ebb and flow, amber beer bottles, back floating on turbid tides, some corked carrying messages, most reduced to glass shards, razor sharp edges rounded by the self-same sand thrust over rocks, against cliff faces, around feet wading shoals. 2. Bullwhip kelp wash ashore after tempests. Sunburned beachcombers pop bulb-like heads before gathering long tentacles, cracking them like riding crops or cat-o'-nine tails, flagellating sandcastles and sunbathers, knowing pliable algae harmlessly flog friends and objects of their joyful aggression. 3. Children tiptoe through flotsam jetsam, scrawl their names in the wet shoreline, place starfish in piles, surrounding them with sea urchins and periwinkle shells. As waves roll in, their creations melt into a watery fray, and they scream as salty ice hands clutch youthful ankles and horseshoe crabs pierce naked feet.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yes. That's cool. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this little group today. There's something about small groups and the ability to be intimate and share a lot more about our lives and our poetry and the things that inspire us. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing.
And
All right. We'll
thank
see
you all.
you in a couple weeks, if not sooner elsewhere.
Well, we have a verse virtual reading coming up Saturday,
Okay.
which will be really good. And then in February on the 3rd, our monthly verse virtual reading you won't want to miss. Check Facebook to see what our lineup is. It starts with Diane Seuss.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, yeah, I do want to see that. When is that?
February 3rd at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, I
Oh,
believe.
I'm working, darn.
I
It
think
Shoot.
will
we'll be able to make
it
that
will
one.
be recorded.
Okay, good, because
That's great that you do record them, though.
Yeah.
yeah. Are you still doing the readings as books come out or not?
I decided not to do that this year. I didn't have the energy to deal with it. Doesn't mean it can't happen again in the future, but I just wasn't up to it.
I have one coming out in maybe end of February and beginning of March, so that's why I was asking.
Well,
I have one coming up too, from Kelsey Press, probably at the end of this. I was thinking of doing something myself. Maybe I could make it, open it up to something else, and somebody else could take it another one. But I don't want to take anything away from Jim either.
well,
I kind of like the way
there's
you
nothing
do
to
it.
take away from me because all I'm doing is hosting an informal open mic.
Yeah. Well, that's a
So,
lot of work. I know from just doing one a month. I mean, what the hell? You do a couple a month. And all right,
When
people, I got to jam, or
when is
I don't
yours
have
coming
to
out?
jam, but I should.